Hi everyone, this is our response video to Basim Youssef in regards to some of the statements he made about the Cleopatra documentary that's on Netflix right now. First of all, I'd like to clearly state that I do not care whether Cleopatra was black, Greek, white, whatever they claim she is, modern day Egyptian. I'm not here to address that. What I would like to address are some of the comments that he made. One of the first ones that I would like to address is him stating that his history is being appropriated, his culture is being stolen, and he does not want to wake up one day and his history has been erased. Okay, I'd like to say this. This is the reality of black people. Not only black Americans, also black people in the Caribbean, also black people in Africa, also black people in Europe, in Asia, and all around the world. Their history has been erased, right? He tried to attack the Afrocentric movement by saying this is an agenda to associate Africans Americans with Egyptians, stating that they were the ones who built the pyramids. But I don't think that was the idea or approach of the Afrocentric movement. Now imagine one day you woke up and you were told for 400 years that people who look like you, irregardless of their culture, irregardless of their practices, irregardless of their ethnic identity, based on the color of their skin alone, you were these people. Whether they lived in East Africa, West Africa, North Africa, Europe, you are black. It does not matter where you're from. As long as you look black and your skin is dark, you are black. And you were told that the people who look like you did not accomplish anything in history, did not add anything of value, did not add anything of worth to mankind. All you did was hunt and live in the woodlands and bushes of Africa. Now you came to the realization that people who look like you were living in these great civilizations, such as Kemet. That's what they call Egypt today. People living in West Africa with these great empires. People living in East Africa, the kingdom of Kush, the Kushites, the Nubians, the Moors, the Phoenicians, the Canaanites. And these are not just African places. Now you learn that people who look like you ruled Europe for 800 years. It's not that you're associating or trying to steal these people's identity. These people are your identity, because for 400 years they told you that people who look like you did not do anything. And now that you're seeing all these great cultures, all these great civilizations, you're learning about the Olmecs in Mesoamerica, and you're seeing that they look like you. You're not trying to say that you did this or your ancestors did this or you have a direct connection to this. You're trying to say no. People who look like me did great things and will continue to do great things. So it's not a matter of culture appropriation. No, that's not the case for the Afrocentric movement. It's to empower people who are called black, to show them that people who look like them did great things. Another thing that I would like to say, when he claimed that his culture is being stolen, I would like to say, what culture? Because as far as we know, as far as we are aware, majority of the modern day people living in Egypt do not practice any cultural values of the ancient people who lived there. They know nothing of Ma'at. They do not have the religion. But it's a Muslim country. We also know that they didn't even care about the monoliths, the pyramids, the Sphinx. Those things were half covered in sand until Europeans came over and gave value to those things. A lot of the limestone that was on the pyramids were stolen to build houses in Cairo, to build mosques and temples, not to Egyptian gods. Now, how can this be your culture when you yourself are destroying what you call your culture? A lot of the statues who have strong, what would you call, so-called West African features were defaced. A lot of the nose were defaced by, again, these people who claim this to be their culture. If this is your culture, why are you destroying your culture? Why did you assist the Europeans in defiling and pillaging those tombs of your people, knowing the sacred practices that they held dear, knowing that it's a great taboo, knowing how they saw that? This is your culture and you're going against your culture. Does not make any sense whatsoever. How can this be your culture when you helped to facilitate these things? Another thing he brought up, he said that they could have used a Egyptian or an Arab. And Egyptians are not Arabs, so why would he use an Arab to play Cleopatra? Arabs are from the Arabic Peninsula, but that's a story for another day, right? He went as far as to just boxed, I would say, black people within just West Africa. What he really wants to say is sub-Saharan Africa, because that's how people in North Africa see people of darker skin. They call them sub-Saharans, which is a derogatory term. So he knows what he's doing. It's a derogatory term. But that's what he really wants to say. He's trying to say that everything in North Africa is lighter and everything beyond the Sahara is darker, when there's clear evidence that this so-called Egyptian culture span further than Egypt. Further than Egypt. If you do your research, you will see that the Canaanites had very close ties with the Egyptian. Back then they called the area the Levant. Palestine is there and Israel is there. These people had mummies, these people had tombs, they dressed similarly to the ancient Egyptians. I don't see anyone in modern day Egypt building pyramids. I don't see anyone in modern day Egypt mummifying their dead. So how can this be your culture when you don't keep the cultural values? He claimed that he's not invaders, but I wouldn't say he or the modern day Egyptians are invaders, but they are the byproduct of invasion, and that's historical facts. He wants the historical facts. He wants his story. He doesn't want the real truth or the real facts. He wants to perpetuate the pseudo history. Camels are not even originally from Egypt. Where did these camels come from? Who brought them there? If you look on the walls in the pyramids, you don't see any camels. You'll see ox, you'll see goats, you see chicken, you see people with distinct features that he himself would call West African. Camels are originally from Mongolia, from Asia. How did they get to Africa? Who brought them there? That's a story for another day. We're not here to address the many invasions, the many people who went there, right, and appropriated the culture. Even you claim that Cleopatra, she did not or was not black. People say she was of Greek origin or Macedonian, but isn't she appropriating culture? Because why would she dress like the ancient people? You know what I mean? So it's way deeper than that. Like I really don't care whether people want to say she was black or white. It's just how he came out, how he tried to box black people into a single area, and because that's what they've been doing since the very time they invaded regions that had black people. They pushed them more and more and more into Africa, more and more into Africa. So you try to tell me that I can't look at people who look like me and say I can associate myself with them because of a certain phenotype. And people, or black people in America, should only look towards West Africa for some form of racial identity. But it's funny because if an Egyptian has my phenotype and he goes anywhere else, or he has really dark skin and really West African feature, although he was born in Egypt and he could trace his family heritage in Egypt, if he goes anywhere else in Europe or anywhere else in North Africa, they'll still look at him or her as a sub-Saharan Africa, or what he would call West African. It means that we shouldn't look at the people who are living in the Centennial Island, an island that is off the coast of India, which is inhabited by what we will call black people, who have no connection whatsoever to the modern society or modern people, but they're living off the coast of India. How did they get there? Did black people only stay in West Africa? Did they only stay in Sub-Sahara? So they didn't go to the Americas before Columbus. They didn't go to Europe. They weren't in the Middle East. And they're not Semitic people. Is that what you're trying to state? Black people are not trying to steal the culture of the identity of the modern day Egyptians. A lot of us went to Egypt. We went in the pyramids. We saw the statues. We saw the drawings. We saw the people who looked like us. And then in that moment, we realize that we are not what this world said we are. Our identity and the people who look like us goes far beyond what people like Basim Yusuf thinks.